I think that's right. Okay. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that I could see the chat if I needed to. So this live was actually a little bit requested, a little bit inspired by a few people. So Sir Black asked me if I would share my thoughts on PrEP. And that got me, and for those of you who don't know what PrEP is an antiviral medication that sort of helps people who do not have HIV, but have a partner who has HIV or AIDS from catching the disease. So Sir Black asked me to share my opinions on that. And that got me thinking, his thing was, well, is this going to make people more sexually irresponsible? And that got me thinking about condoms and the morning after pill and right? All of these other things that sort of enable us to be a little bit more sexually free and careless with our bodies than we normally would be. And then I was talking last night about a collaboration, and the subject came up about how we normalize what used to be considered deviant behaviors. So this is like, anal sex, or the other day they were talking about eating the booty like groceries. And I was like, what's that? And apparently that's eating somebody's butt. So things that are really vile, because why would you want to eat feces, right? How that is being normalized. But then the conversation was taken a step further, and I don't know where you guys stand on this, where it was suggested that things such as oral sex and such used to be a deviancy, but were normalized. So it was like a rabbit hole, and I just thought I wanted to compound all of these conversations together and just talk about whether or not as a society we are normalizing behavior that is abnormal. And if we are enabling people with modern technology and drugs and things like that to be more sexually irresponsible. So first of all, a couple of disclaimers. I flexi rotted my hair yesterday. No, I did not cut it. It's still all here. It's just too curly, but that's okay because my hair can't hold a curl. So it'll fall. But yeah, right now I'm basically bald. So Jonas, I'm chilling. It's raining outside. I have no natural light, so I apologize for the lighting. So I'm just relaxing. I started doing my chores, took a break for this, and I'll go back to it. My daughter got up to bake bread this morning. She burnt the bread. She said the eggs were cold. She made really delicious French bread the other day, but today I guess, we're getting used to this oven because we're used to gas, and she's never used electric, and so it's just like a learning curve. Hello, Dr. Evil Hands. Darius, good morning. Hopefully you've got back on track. Honestly, I was really inspired, you guys. I don't know how many of you were there for Nylah's panel, where people came for me and basically called me a prostitute, which I thought was pretty and mad disrespectful, because that's a huge accusation. But it worked out for the good, you guys, because I'm going to be doing a documentary where I interview women about their relationship with their bodies, and especially curvy women, how that's been received, what they've done or have not done to try to combat being accused of being a whore. I've looked into some research where it says that busty girls are automatically viewed as sexually promiscuous. and things like that. So I think that it's going to work out for the good. Like I'm going to take lemons and make lemonade. And I actually have done a montage of my videos, all of my cleavage bearing videos, you know, and little clips of what I talk about. And that's going to be the prelude to the documentary. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to use this for good, because for those of you that have been on my channel, you know that I'm very passionate about women's rights. I actually have a video where I talk about women as second-class citizens, as highly sexualized creatures. And so I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how the perception of women has led to breastfeeding. I'm going to talk about historically how Black women have been reduced to either being a mammy, an asexual, or a Jezebel, which is funny because I was actually called a witch and a Jezebel when I was on Obsidian's channel, when I went on his radio show by one of his co-hosts. So I think that this is a conversation that I probably would have never had in my real life, because I feel on the internet people feel more comfortable being disrespectful. But I'm going to make lemons out of it. So I'm going to choose what I'm going to feed, and what I'm going to feed is really turning this into a conversation about women and how we perceive other women, and how easily we will call a woman a whore, who's literally not street walking or having sex with anybody or being a whore. Also, I thought, you know, we have all these extreme movements: feminism, MGTOW, the slut walk. Nylah brought that up. Free the nipple. I don't know if you guys have heard free the nipple, but there's like a whole movement of women who just don't understand why women's nipples are sexualized. And so they just walk around topless. And I feel like those movements, slut walk, free the nipple, are like extreme reactions to what happened to me, which is being a regular woman and having, you know, I think they picked on like 4 videos of mine, having those picked on in the bigger scheme of 240 videos, to pick out 4 videos and be like, this is all the evidence we need that you're a whore. You're asking to be called a whore because I saw your nipple was hard in a video, or do you know what I mean? So you're asking to be called a whore because, you know, you sat down in your house robe and ate a piece of candy. Like literally, that's the conversation I had yesterday. So that was crazy, but that's okay. So am I recovered? Yes. Like I said, I'm about to use this energy for good, you guys, because I'm going to be making a documentary. I have to render my montage. I'm going to be putting that up, and I'm going to be opening up the conversation to where society has come from, and how some of us vibrate at a lower level, and how we impose how we view the world on other people, and we judge people through our own lens. So yeah, so I think it should be pretty fascinating. Hello, Xander. Hi, Super T. Sir Black. Hello. We are going to be covering part of your topic and some other stuff. I see Everett's here. So awesome. I can't wait to talk to him. Fidel, Joshua, Crypto. Hello. You're not giving up head 100% crypto? Okay. Hi, Maximum. Hi, JJ. It was on Nyla's panel. I literally got on the panel, and everybody on the panel didn't like my slut trap video. Or what was it called? Thirst trap? I don't know. Yeah. Carl Weed's thirst trap. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that. They said, I've just been waiting to make that video. They just gave me an excuse. And I was like, really? Did you watch the video? But then Nylah was saying, well, what about the children, Irene? So I was like, fine, Nylah, I will take the video down. Huh?
What about the children? The children can see your mother all looking provocateur and having these no good men look at you and drool and say bounce it. But and you know, funny thing, when you put that video up, you notice the comment section was not available.
The comment section wasn't what?
Available. Like, you know, usually every video there's a comment to people to give their views, comments.
Oh, really? Because I I could see all the comments.
I didn't see it because I remember going to that, and I wasn't using my other device. I didn't see no comments, to be honest with you. That's
Yeah,
how it was. Was the comment section open?
yeah, the comment section was open. Lots of
I
people
did
left.
not see that. I didn't see that.
I haven't deleted the video. I still have the video, and I'm going to use the video probably in my documentary, so you'll see the footage again.
Yeah,
But
but I didn't read the comments because I watched the video. I want to see what are the response. I'm more focused on if it's more than, let's say, 100 comments. I'm not gonna read all comments, but I just scan through it to see what reaction. But this is nothing new. If you did videos in the past, and if you, let's say, do this, Iron, anytime you do a video, right, and you count how many comments will live, just scan through it. Anything that's more than, let's say, 2 sentences, don't bother waste time read it unless it catch your attention on the first few words they say on it. But you just want to see what is the comment reaction to the video. Are they understanding the information? Are they saying her titty's too big? Or these little negative things. If you see more of that, then most likely most people are not getting the message, and they're too much focused on the physical aspect and not focused on the message itself. I mean, right now, like if you look at now, you dress okay right now, but then again, it's always gonna be a problem, you know?
well, no,
Because
somebody's going
they
to
already
say,
misconception you already. They always say, why are you watching this person's video and all this and that? And I'm saying, her breast's too big. Matter of fact, she look a certain way. And mostly, I'm not sure who's the negative comments you get most the sex. I don't know if it's the women or men. But let's say the women.
let's be clear. In my comment section, I don't get very many negative comments. All of the people who have approached me in that light, other than the guy that called me a witch on Obsidians, were on the panel yesterday. So, yeah, that's not something that normally happens. So there we go. But I read all comments. Everybody knows that. I read everybody's comment, and I always try to respond unless the comment is just super off, because people take the time to comment. So I like to respond to everybody, and I hope I can always keep that up.
I bet your notifications will blow up like daily, like every minute a video you get. You know what I'm saying? Like you're getting comments like this, like clockwork.
Goodness Rated said, "Whore is a verb." Thank you. Right. Goodness Rated said, "Irene, can I ask you a question? Do you think Black women or women in general are mean to each other?" That is so interesting. On the clip on my montage that I made that I'll be putting out later today, at the end, I have a vocal of a beautiful Black woman. I'm trying to get an interview with her, who talked about her feeling that Black women are catty, and her commentary it's pretty on point. So I don't know. What I do know is that for me, you guys know the other day I had my god sister on, and she did astrology readings and things like that. She was the one in my teaser for my my Patreon. She dresses really, really, really sexy. There are a whole group of women who would never allow her around their men, who would call her a whore, when literally all she does, honestly, is she sits in her house all day long. She just sits in her house. She barely does anything. Every once in a while, she takes a trip. She's been with she was with the same dude. They just recently broke up, but she was with the same dude since she was like 20 or something. So she's in no way, shape, or form a whore. But people will look at her, and because she's got big breasts and she's got a big butt and her waist is really snatched, a lot of women have a negative feeling toward her. I was one of her. I've known her, obviously, because we're god sisters since we were little kids. And I love her, and I'm comfortable with her. But that's not the case for all women, and that's what I'm going to get into in my documentary, is also interpersonal relationships with women, where we look at other women, and let's say a beautiful woman walks in the room, and I've been guilty of this in my life. I had to grow out of this, and vibrate higher. And you're like grabbing your man, or she looks at your man, or your man looks at her, and you feel some kind of way, or you know what I mean? Or, she's got cleavage, so you're judging that. So do I think that? I think to a point, women are catty with each other. Women are suspect of each other. Women feel in competition and are very judgy of each other. But I think that should not be the case. Especially if the woman in question is always good and respectful toward you. So that's what I think about that, Goodness Rated.
So Irene, the woman that I saw on a previous video that is like what's an 8 minute clip? I don't know what it was, a short clip that has bald hair and she's like I think almost as busty as you.
Yeah,
Is that
she's bigger. Her breasts are even bigger than mine. Yeah.
who's that? The one with the bald head. You know,
That's my
she's like
god sister.
you got a sister?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one. Okay. So,
Yeah.
you know. Okay,
Yeah,
well.
I've known her since we were little kids. And so yeah, and she's like a beautiful human being and we're very different. Do you know what I mean? But I love her anyway. And I think that's something else too. I wanted to bring her on because I think people think that
Now
I'm
you know, now you know, by the video, I think most like let's say Obsidian them on their own planet, they would consider that woman mostly obese, you know, to their standard, you know.
some people are like that. Maximum Black said, at Irene, why do you make excuses for Taz? All he does is pick cat fights with women on the panel. There's nothing manly about that. He's a huge pessimist. I think I spelled that right.
Nah,
Because I
Taz
look,
loves women, man. That's why he sits there. He'll argue a man before he argue a woman, most like on the average. You know what I'm saying? He'll cape for
yeah,
the
he
woman.
argues with men too. I'll agree with that. And as far as defending Taz, because if you guys haven't learned anything from watching my channel, I choose to look at the positive in people. Even on that panel and what happened last night, which I'm a very cool person. I don't talk about people. I don't start beef with people. I don't make negative assumptions about people like that. I just chose to look at the positive things that were said. And I still like everybody on the panel. And that's how I'm built, y'all. Literally, some people hate that about me. They're like, you can make an excuse, Irene, for anybody. But it's just that I think if we focus on the positive aspects of people, that it will encourage those things to grow in them. And so that's why when you hear me talk about Taz, even if something's going south, it's normally going to be, or it always has been, right? Except for when I cussed him out yesterday, super positive. And yesterday I was really wrong for that. I should not have cursed at him. But I was very offended by what went on in that panel. I thought it was very extreme, and I thought it was very misrepresented. It was misrepresenting me as a person, and it was just pretty fucking lame, just to be honest. But nevertheless, I'll still focus on the positive in him because after I cussed him out, you know, I made it clear that I do like him because I do. I just wasn't with the shenanigans. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the content, right? So yesterday, you and I were talking about a number of topics, and you said some stuff that really
Blew your mind.
It really did, because I had never thought about it. And I mentioned this earlier in this live, like when I was talking about you know, we were talking about how it's normalized to do things that are, it's being normalized to do things that are highly inappropriate, like eat people's butts, which is basically eating feces. Like there's no amount of cleaning that's going to stop you from getting feces in your mouth if you put your mouth on somebody's butt. But that's being normalized, like it's okay. And can you, I mean, it's just a disgusting thought to think that people are doing this and they're comfortable with it. Or anal sex. That's something that me personally, I attach to homosexuality. I don't know about you, but you took it a step further.
It is homosexuality, and it's already in homo in its nature already, you know, because people don't understand the history of European culture, you know. We all been indoctrinated and know enough about what they consider white people, but we really don't know what really they are culture-wise. Because everything we do everyday basis is deemed normal because we live in a Western world, which is controlled by what people could play their natural enemy, which is the European man, i.e., white male. You know, and really, if people understand history, we look at it at a lens of is it something? It's just the past. Everything has a cycle where the past and the present and future is a continual circle of life. You know, and when our people sit back and separate the two, we feel whatever happens, let's say 70, 80, 50, hell, even 50 years ago, that was just back then. We don't have to worry about it. It doesn't really focus now. But everything correlates to what happens back then that plays to today. And you know what I'm saying? The only thing that changes is the game changes, but everything still remains the same. The game still operates accordingly. You know, you just after a while, certain systems change up a little bit to keep the deception going. And one thing, one of my other good friends out here, Mr. Serena Gray, people don't understand when people look at what they call white supremacy is a thing that has been conceptualized in paper in books now for the last 30 or more years. You know, and when I sit back and I think, say, he has a point because when we see scholars like the Jerry Clarks or any of them that talk about, that's when the era when most people now came after the 60s going and as adults start to look at these things. You know, I remember there was a good book that came out and it might still be exist in circulation, talking about the black people and the black family and the extermination of the black race. It was written by what's their name? I'm trying to remember their name again. Julius and Julius. If it come back to me, I'll tell people. But this book in itself was written in the 80s. Same thing that the Neely Fuller's book that was revised like 3-4 times. Its final revised came out in 84. I'm not sure if you heard about this book before, Irene, called the United Independent Code for Race and White Supremacy. That book was finally re-released in the 80s. And all this information started to come out in the 80s to start let people that start take into some literature to really understand why we keep not progressing. And they start looking into books like this and certain scholars, if they were able to come around like a lecturer and stuff, they start put two together and say, so really it's a system that we're in. And mind you, certain black people back then start to get around, understand that. But that was like 30 years, a little bit, I would say somewhat late, but it started to conceptualize our reality to why we have not progressed or moved on, because we got to understand as much as a system that we have to understand that keeps us in confined. Because if you don't understand how the system works, you're going to continue be on this mousetrap. They did tests on people on human behavior, like the Skinner test. You heard about the Skinner test before, right, Irene?
Yeah, go ahead.
The Skinner's test with the rat test.
Yes.
How you just put in a box and then you give them enough, you're able to control the activities. That's how we look at ourselves as people. But all this research has been done decades ago, and a lot of people that start to understand now was over 30-something years ago. Even before you were like a kid, or maybe even when I was a boy, or wherever, even my existence, all people start conceptualize what we call racism more in the 80s. But it was always around, but people never really understand, conceptualize it until it came to literature, And there probably was some books before the 80s, but really black people start looking into it now is around the 80s, So right now, a lot of us are starting to get it a little bit, not all, but some of us, even the youth that's, let's say, in their 20s, they might not get all the way, I'm not sure, but some have. Just like some people that were born in the 80s, they started to get, everything goes in progression over time, Some people will get it when they're a teenager, and some will get them before they're like 30 years old. But nonetheless, information's been out here for some time now. And when people start to look into why things are the way they are, that's when they start to go on this journey to look for answers. And that's the point I'm trying to bring out. Now, in regards to sexuality. Oh, Nylah. People don't understand this. Right now, when we talk about this, I read about, when you hear people engage in perverse behavior in the bedroom, this is all indoctrinated. You know what I'm saying? Now, we could say the porn has a lot to do with this. Like, the conversation you had before a few nights ago.
Yeah.
And we feel said, how this correlates to black people behavior? Well, we have to learn what sex is for what we see. You know what I'm saying? Because most on the average, think about it. How you think most black people were really getting it like that in mass numbers before the 70s? A lot of them, if you have parents that grew up, a lot of them started to get married before they were 20, right? So obviously they were still virgins before that, right? I mean, hopefully. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So when they start, get married, that's when they get down, and they have the children. But now because, we take a step back because we have things available, we now re-engineer and condition ourselves to what is normal. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. So with this, And I think the brother with the glasses said it best about, he don't find a problem with it. I think I might be wrong. I'm going to go back to the broadcast. But no, so all these things can be detrimental because it bothers the psyche of people. Because now you're conditioned how to perform under your woman and how you see her. And the music and, videos help push it more to say we got to look at ourselves more as objects. You know what I'm saying? Not to build. You know what I'm saying? It's like George Mason said, bust it wide open. Because all strategy to condition us to be more sexualized. And not only sexualized, but engage in sexual deviance was already brought to our psyche through the help of imagery. You know what I'm saying? And now with the internet, it's free range now. People get access now, easy now. That's why if you have children, you have to be very careful to, monitor what they really, really watch on the net, from their phones to their computers, because it's out there. It's access easyable now. They're not going to regulate that, and they're not going to, because they know that if you condition people to be in a certain mindset, you can entice them. You know what I'm saying? And make it worse, especially if they've been molested and raped, and increase more than enticing more. It creates like a fetish. You got to have more. So we got to be very careful with what our children see and try to protect them in any way, form, so they don't get sexually exploited, physically and, outside means. So I'm going to take a break for a bit, just to breathe a little bit. I'm coughing a little bit. Hello, Nylah.
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
Hey, Irene, how are you, honey?
I'm fine. I had to unmute myself to say something. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. What you guys got going today?
So we're talking about like normalized things that are being normalized that are actually like dysfunctions sexually. So specifically we're picking on anal sex and like eating people's bottoms, but we're also expanding that into how even things, and this could go far for some people, like oral sex, were not necessarily the norm. And we're also discussing some of the drugs that are out and contraception that's available that's kind of opening the door for people to be a little less sexually responsible. So PrEP, the morning after pill, just things like that are allowing people to be a little bit more, I guess, liberated is what they would call it, in their sexuality, despite the fact that the behavior is unhealthy in general. So that's kind of the topic.
Well, I kind of think that this culture that we're in, well, we know Western culture is almost mirroring Greco-Roman culture, which was very sexually irresponsible and counter to, having traditional working healthy families. And I think that what we're seeing happening in society now is a push against traditional roles, traditional family, and morality. And so with the advent of the drugs that they have, I forgot the name of it. I think you just said it. The drug that came out so that people can avoid getting HIV, and this whole everything is like sexualized. Even like when you go to, like, I went to maybe a couple months ago, go buy clothes for a niece for her birthday, and the children's clothes are sexy. You know what I'm saying? And there's this push to sexualize everything. I mean, if you look at the TV,
there's a story said, there's a story right now, and one of my friends posted on social media, talk about, say it's called Kids Are Sexy. I'm not sure if it was a clothing line store or something, but there's actually one mall that posts that.
Yeah, and it's like people can't even sell shampoo. Like a shampoo commercial is sexual. If you're like, no matter what it is, it's involved, and that's why I think it's kind of bad when people completely blame parents for their children's behaviors now, because our parents didn't have to contend with this massive media and social media presence that, add so much emphasis on stuff like that. And I do think that the whole obsession with butts and stuff, even with the exaggeration of butts with people getting fake ones and all this kind of stuff, and every single thing is about somebody's behind now. I think that is the caveat to, not to say that, of course, men are going to be attracted to women's butts. That's true. But the overemphasize of people's butts and the whole eating butt and all that kind of stuff, I think that is a caveat to homosexuality, because it puts almost too much focus on it. Like, if we look at pictures, even if you look at sexy pictures of Black women, period, from the 60s and the 70s, we did not have these ginormous horse behinds. And now it's like you don't have anything unless it's as big as a donkey. You know what I'm saying? And that's like the focal point of everything. And I just think that it is almost Sodom and Gomorrah-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. My daughters don't wear pants, so they only wear dresses. And I know when I go shopping for them, it can be hard because of where they put the cutouts, like even the keyholes in the back, things like that. My daughter has one dress she wears a t-shirt under because it has 3 bows in the back, and then there's nothing in between the bows, in between. And I was just like, what little kid is going to just be walking around with their full on back out? But they are trying to normalize that, or even little things I don't do. And some people may be okay with this, like putting little girls in high heels. I don't mind my daughters playing in my shoes, but I definitely mind them just walking about in life at their age with little heels on.
Well, they make them for them now.
Yeah, exactly. And
what age is that now with little girls wearing high heels? What's going on with that?
There's this store. It was taken. Irene, do you remember Buster Brown, right?
Yeah.
The kid. Okay, I can't think of the name of this shoe store. But it's specifically for children. But I think it took the place of Buster Brown. But like for little girls about 9, 10 years old, they can get high heel shoes now. I mean, they even make them for babies. But, you know, of course, the heel is soft. But they're projecting this imagery onto kids now, too. Even if you look at the clothes for babies or little girls, like 8, 9 years old, there is a way that, like, if you sew, like I think Irene sews too, there's a way that you can make a pant or a short or even a skirt that will accentuate the curvature of your bottom. And they're making the children's clothes like that too, so that their bottoms are accentuated. Like, I mean, it's the sickest thing. Like, if I had another kid in my old age or anything, like I would make all the kids' clothes. I would not, the kid would be completely cut off from media work because they're making their clothes even sexy.
Yeah, that's so true. That's one of the reasons why I purchase my daughter's clothes. I actually buy them secondhand, and I buy the little smock dresses and the bishop's dresses. It is very rare that I go into a department store to purchase clothing for them because it's very hard to find appropriate things there. It's very, very hard. Even some of the like dressier dresses are very low cut. They're very widely cut. They will have basically nothing covering the shoulders. They will be very, very short. It's just really interesting. But I think the point you made about Greco-Roman society, and we are seeing a push back to that. In my last live, we talked about how the Man Love Boy Association, there's a real push for that, and normalizing homosexuality and comparing that to Black people. And then I showed a clip where they're now trying to say that pedophilia is a sexual orientation, and next, you know, bestiality is a sexual orientation, and we're just going to keep the ball rolling, which is very indicative of Greco-Roman society with the mentoring and all of that, and the sexualization of children and the neutrality of the genders, where men were actually preferred for sex over women even. So it's just a slippery, messy slope, and I think because it's part of modern culture, people don't recognize the deviancy.
It's modern Eurocentric culture, not culture in general. We got to change that. It's modern Roman / Eurocentric culture because that's what we're under. So what they seem and deem worthy, that we must go full force in our culture, because to destroy others, we have to take to a place where a lot of us as our own race have faltered. If you look at most Europeans, even if people really study their culture back, let's say during the age of Egypt, or a little further back or after that, that there was one time, and a good book that explains this in detail is by Mabaruti, The Effeminization of the Black Male. And in this text, it goes into talking about how most of the Romans at the time, how they were not, the population was declined because some are not having and procreate with women. They were spending a lot more time with the men in numbers, and it was threatening their population. So they had to put laws in place to say you're going to have to find a woman. And when the government step in and tell you what you should have been doing naturally, it tells you were not in that thinking from the start. So when people look at this culture we're in now and where it's leading to, it's trying to go back to do one thing and one thing, destroy people that are not white in general. Because when we follow something, we take it all the way in, without no question of what really was the consequence going to happen in this activity we're following down the line. We don't think like that. We don't think on the present. We don't think 20, 30 years down the line. If a person is, let's say, gay and feels that this is their born and they're going to accept it and they're going to continue living that life, no one said that his lifespan is cut short much further because of his practice. And another thing, Irene, that same panel you had, one brother said that he denied that this thing does not exist and think this is always, and that no one really create books or anything about, so they regulate behaviors. And it tells when you hear people like that talk that shit, I think people say, well, one thing you should do, and this goes to any person that denies us, that you should probably start research yourself, man, especially if those are not part of that life, if you're not homosexual in nature. You know what I'm saying? To sit there, start criticizing the next black person, that maybe they should start taking books and start research themselves before they sit there, run their mouth and say it don't exist and that people talking foolishness. Because this is a constant fight we have with most of our people. Because I conclude most of our people only go by the word. They never go by the actions of people. Just the other day when we discussed this thing, Irene, and I sit back and conclude that if a black person, let's say a male, said that he's gay, a lot of black people will not believe that unless the person say out his word that he's this. They're not going to pay attention to his body language, actions, or his mood or practice. They only go by the word, and the word holds more power than the action itself. And I said, this is the same thing they do to fuck black people in politics. And everything, even the pastor does the same thing because they notice that you only go by the word. Nothing more, nothing less. You're not watching what he's doing, nothing like that. So when you hold accountability, black people not focus on it because they only go by what you're telling them. And I think, to me, that's very dangerous.
Well, I think that this
actually... I'm not sure if Nylah would agree on that, but this is what I have to conclude now, in regards to homosexuality. If they don't really see the person, if the person will tell them that they're this, they're not going to believe it.
Well, I think that to some degree that can come into a relationship, because it's my personal feeling, and I know everybody is, sexually free in different ways, but it's my personal feeling that a man that is very interested in sex that includes anal or being penetrated himself, behaviors like that, that's indicative of a person that is likely homosexual. And again, this is something that George was talking about when he did his stream on pornography. We don't recognize that even the act of watching pornography can incite homosexual urges in us, or taste for things that are unnatural. Even though that may not be the direct intention, sometimes we make correlations and we don't realize the correlation has been made until the stimuli is presented. So we're in this society where ever increasingly behaviors that are grotesque are now normalized. When eating the booty like groceries is part of a song and people are singing it like it's cool,
by a non-black person,
ignoring the fact that that means you're eating fecal matter, or when being highly promiscuous, which means that you're making yourself open for disease, you're kind of spreading yourself thin. When that is normalized as healthy and acceptable, then what is healthy and acceptable becomes abnormal, and what is unhealthy becomes normalized. And back to what Nylah was saying about our children, the encouragement of children to let them watch music videos, which are often really vulgar, to encourage them to emulate the dances that they see and to think that that's cute and cool. Also puts them on a stage where they're behaving like adult women. And so as behaving like adult women, you know, I saw a really disturbing documentary once. And in the beginning, they had like a 12-year-old girl, and they were showing, like, she was walking through the grass and they were showing her legs. And, you know, the thing was to incite that you are attracted until they pan out and you realize that this is a child. And so this gameplay, I think, is dangerous, and I don't feel that we're watching it close enough, that dynamic, in our society right now.
Indeed. And another thing,
they are that, like, it, Xander just made up a good point when he's talking about how, like, they do with the cartoons and even like with the animals and stuff like that. That's why, like, you do have to be hyper vigilant about what the kids are seeing and what they're doing, because they, like, the things that they have to contend with, and it's in school. Like, so my daughter is 27, so she's been out of high school, what, almost 10 years, right? Just about. Yeah.
No,
so,
it's 9 years. 9 years now.
No,
If she born 91, then most like if she graduate, let's say around 18, it would be 9 years now. 10 years would be next year.
Yes, she graduated when she was 17. Thank you.
Okay, then it's actually 10 years then. It's 10 years. Yeah,
okay,
10 years.
Thank you. Thank you again. So, so when she enrolled in high school, that would have been 14 years ago. So people act like this is new, but they've been creeping up into this. So 14 years ago, when I took her, because she was an athlete, I took her for, you know, they have to get their physicals and do all of that kind of stuff that you have to do before you go to, you know, before you start high school and stuff like that. So when I went to take her to the physical, and this was her regular doctor. So this started that year. Her regular doctor said, while I was in the room, because I'm always in the room with her, says, oh, okay, so do you mind if your mother is in the room with us? And I was offended. So I was like, what do you mean? You better be glad that I'm allowing, you know, your assistant to be in here. And so she was like, well, that we have a new policy where we have to ask the children if, you know, if it's okay once they reach a certain age. And I was like, what age is that? And she said, well, the age that it was, like, I think she says once they're over 10 years old. Now, this was a private doctor.
Oh, so no.
Well, that's how it is. But even with Planned Parenthood, your 9-year-old can get birth control from Planned Parenthood without your permission. So very like the push for kids to be, you know, to be over sexualized is being fostered by the society that we're in. But anyway, so we got through that part. But when we went to enroll in high school, when I went to pay all her school fees and do all that kind of stuff, they asked me what her sexual orientation was. And so I was like, okay, she's a freshman in high school. I think she was, yeah, because she was a young freshman like I was. So she was 12. And so I was like, she's 12. She doesn't have a sexual orientation. Like, and what are you talking to? Like, well, we just, you know, we want to make sure that we put them in environments where they feel safe and they can express themselves. I said, so you want her to be in a place where she can express herself sexually at school? I don't understand. So I got into a big argument in the admissions office, which I'm sure nobody's surprised that I get into an argument. My kids went to a predominantly white school. I walk in there and it'd be loud in the school. And when I walk in, it'd get quiet because everybody knew that I would get with you about my kids. So that part, you know, we got through that part or whatever, but then she had cramps one time, menstrual cramps. So she called me and said, could you bring me some, you know, something, you know, for the cramps or whatever. And so she was on her lunch break. And so I didn't formally go into the office. I just pulled up to the school while she was on lunch and I gave her the pills. So she got in trouble for taking Midol from me. But if she wanted to get birth control from school, she could get birth control, which is a hormone and a drug. She could get that without my permission. but she had to have the permission of the school to get my doll from her mother.
Interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. So you know what that's telling you? They promote and self-inflicting genocide on our youth at a young age, and we
You
just don't
know,
know it.
you know,
But we all know what the birth, we
I
know. Hold on, all right, we all know what the birth control pills do to women, and a lot of women admit it or not. I kind of understand why most women don't mess with it because what they tell me. And no, so now what they do now, they're putting your children in a position where they say, you know, you don't have no choice unless you're strong minded to really step in. That said, we're gonna give your child that's without you knowing. Matter of fact, we say is not in your consent to worry about what we give your children. So right there, what they're doing is they already prepare your children that said to take on sexual activity if they're not engaged already, to start, you know, suppress, give them these drugs to mess with their bodies already, you know. And fine, it's funny how they only do this with our children. I'm not sure they do this with every children, but I know they focus specifically on non-white children. This, you know,
so
I
I
could be wrong, but go ahead, Ari.
I think that Nylah brings up a good point about children's media. So, you know, my kids don't get to consume media unless I pre-approve it first. But one of my pet peeves, and I discuss this with my daughters, because when we do talk about media, we may not watch the media because they can't just like unsee stuff, but I might discuss something with them as to why they can't watch it. So, for example, Beauty and the Beast is like a pet peeve movie of mine. I find it to be disgusting that this woman is carrying on basically a relationship with an animal. It's just a very weird movie. I don't understand like the concept behind that. But I sat my daughters down and they were like, well, why can't we watch the movie? You know, I was like, first of all, I just don't like Disney. But I was like, also, the story is a very weird story. And I talked to them about how that is a weird story and what I saw was wrong with that. And there are other movies that people have asked me if my kids could see. Shrek, like at the beginning of that movie, there was like a chick like laying on top of him on the beach. The innuendo, like in children's media, which makes it very hard to find anything that's really safe for your child to watch. It's just gotten very, very deep. But again, to normalize this behavior, I've seen little clips of shows that are geared toward what they call the tween market, not quite teenagers, not quite little ones, where there's cross-dressing and things like that. Just to, you know, there's this push to make everything socially acceptable and okay. And I think this really goes back to undermining the nuclear family. Like, I think this all sources back to undermining the nuclear family. And I guess that's why I don't get on with a lot of these movements. I can't get on with gay rights. I can't get on with feminism. I can't get on with MGTOW. I can't get on with, you know, promiscuity. I can't get on with behaviors that kind of undermine a healthy nuclear family, because that's where our first line of defense is, right? Our first line of defense is what we're doing in our home with our children. And if that's removed, with our kid being in school for 8 hours a day, with our then them coming home and then, you know, they're reinforcing what they learned in school with homework, and then they're sitting down in front of a TV and they're assimilating programming. At what time do we as a family, and that's one of the reasons I homeschool, get the majority of influence over our child? Society is raising our children, and they're raising our children to feel that deviant behavior is the norm.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And that is why, like, you see, like, I think it was mentioned on my panel before, you know how, like, let's say 30 years ago, if you were in a conversation with like your parents or your grandmothers or aunts, just in general, people were not that inclusive to make it seem like seeing a man dressed like a woman is normal, or seeing a man exhibit female behaviors. Like, they're like, we just have to be honest here, and I'm not trying to like jump, but we do see a lot of men talking about, you know, Black women are masculine or whatever, but not realizing that in that same token, a lot of our men are also becoming very feminine. And the thing is, what I don't like is that people put a color on it, because this is Western society. Western society is pushing that men become a lot less masculine and that women are taking on these roles. That's what we're seeing happening in the liberal media. Like, do you remember when the Kavanaugh hearings were going on? And remember when they rushed that one guy in the elevator, and that lady was like, some lady back, I forgot what she was talking about, but somebody got raped or something like that. And so she basically wanted him to pay for it and stand up for it. And then we see all of these women basically, it's a difference between conversing with a man, having a debate with the guy, and standing on your own. There's nothing wrong with having an intellectual battle with men. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when you get to the point where you're trying to emasculate that man and make him bow down to you because of your point or whatever, that's what's becoming normal. And it's becoming to the point where, like, a lot of women think that there's power in saying that gender is social and it doesn't matter, what gender you are, and that we're all equal. And I do believe that we are equal as far as importance and relevance to the society, but we also have very different roles. The men can do what I can do, and I can't do what men can do, and neither one of us should want to do the other's job. But that feminist movement, coupled with this whole sexuality, gender bender thing, is really anti-woman. And a lot of women are feeling empowered by this. But when you say that you're the same as a man, or there's nothing that men can do that you can't do, or whatever, you're removing your protection. And these same women that are talking about toxic masculinity, and that are talking about how they don't want men running shit, and
white
men are
talking points. Yep.
Those same women are, when shit hits the fan, because the shit is cyclical. So stuff is going to happen. You're going to need that toxic masculine man that you're talking about now. That man at some point is going to be needed. You're going to need what you call toxic in the event of a war, in the event of an invasion, when stuff like that. You need those men, those same women that have cut off their breast and taking hormones and identify as a man and change their gender. They're going to be looking for protection underneath a man.
Exactly. And Nylah, isn't it ironic that when even when this feminist movement started to come to full surface during the 60s, that the two women, and I remember, was it Cerulean talking about this? And he gave me a PDF on us, and I probably might find this book he shared. But the man that taught those same two women or the woman that, like the Gloria Stein, was a white man. I think he's a Jewish man that taught this pathology to another woman that worked with the government to help push this. So it goes back again. Most women understand the same things that was created is developed by a man still, nonetheless. And a lot of women don't see that. They think just one day a white woman just come out and just create this. No, she was groomed and taught by who? A man.
Well, see, and by that same token, on social media about a month ago, there was this page from this book where it was saying, there's no benefits for Black men to get married, and there's no benefits, to marriage, and I was saying specifically targeted toward Black men, and Black men were sharing this and applauding this. Now, the thing about it is, I go and do the research, and guess who wrote the book?
White man.
A lesbian white woman. So, like,
what's the man's book? Can you tell the people that's listening so we could look this up? So people, we don't.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the book, but if somebody probably knows what I'm talking about. But it was being shared heavily. But it was a lesbian white woman who wrote the book, and it's like people are sitting here being pulled like puppets on a string with all this stuff. Like some of the talking points that I'm hearing now, like when you call it out, they have bitch fits and shit about it. Because they feel like they're coming up with original content or context. Like there's this one video that Taz has on his page where he's talking about how back in the 90s they were listening to music that was basically anti-feminist and anti-feminism. And the stuff that the guys are saying now, right now, that are, you know, probably in their late 30s and 40s, they obviously didn't get the message from back then. And so now they're saying that it's mytho, or they're saying that they're talking about this, what do they call it? Gynocentrism.
Yeah,
stuff. When those guys were against that shit way back then, but they just didn't have a bitch fit about it, like we see going on now.
Yeah, I think you made an interesting correlation between masculinity, or even perceived masculinity in women, and femininity in men, because the gauge for what is masculine is kind of what is feminine, right? And vice versa. So if men are becoming more and more effeminate, then the women may even, what might just be a slightly stronger female may be perceived to be highly masculine in comparison to a feminized male. So I think even we can't trust our gauge on the matter anymore, because the comparison is not made between a highly masculine male and a woman. It's made between the modern effeminate male and a woman that's overcompensating for the fact that the male has been made effeminate. So are women really masculine per se? It's hard to say, because we're having a less of an abundance of healthy males to compare her to. She would seem
right. Right. Like, look in the chat box. You have men who say, you know, equal rights, equal lefts, and, you know, I'll beat a woman's ass or whatever. Like, traditionally, we never saw masculine men have to assert that, because women don't challenge masculine men. They're not, you know, they kind of understand if a woman is physically challenging you and she's not crazy, it's because she doesn't see the masculinity in you. She sees the broad in you. Like, and it's like, I see specifically on social media where men feel like they're exerting their masculinity by going in and internet checking women. You know, where they say, you guys need to wear your hair like this. Y'all need to do this. You need to do that. But they fail to do that with men. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just this weird. And even like the guy who's made videos about me saying that I'm trying to incite a race war, and that I'm telling black men basically to go and start this fight, this race war. That is a man that is feminine. And that is a man who sees my strength as masculine. Because, and that's the thing, being strong is not a masculine trait. Being strong is a human's trait. And when men are intimidated by strength, it's something lacking in your masculinity. Now, my strength is not the measure of a man's strength. A woman's strength is not the same. My power is not the same as a man. But yes, women have, Irene has strength. You know, Nylah has strength. We have different strengths. We're different, you know, we're different types of women or whatever, but they have this thing where, oh, if a woman is not a coward, or if a woman is confident, that's masculinity. No, if that's masculinity to you, that's because you're feminine.
But now, you know, fine thing, Nylah, it's like this. I remember when he did a broadcast on this, and he said in the times of, let's say, actual war, right? They know said most of these men that push back or anything from hearing from mouth, let's say from woman or a man, about, you know, what men should be upholding and doing still, which is choice now. That at times a lot of these men will not fight, no, not only psychological war, but physical war, because they've been deemed trained to be effeminate. You know what I'm saying? For a good period of time now, for a long time. We're not sure how long, but long enough where at times said, even Keith said best, said, you don't see war, you see faggots go out there fight in the front round. You know what I'm saying? You see actual men fight. You know, most of them that are ex-faggots, they stay in the background. You know what I'm saying? They don't want nothing to do with it. That's why they'll oppose him against anything, you know? Because they like the nest. And it's kind of vulgar when he said it like that. But I sit there back and say, damn, Keith, you know, you was wrong, but you feel you have a point right there. Because don't fight wars like that, you know?
We're seeing the cultural trend change, because just less than 10 years ago, women were not allowed in combat, like not in actual combat. but now they are. So, and which doesn't even make sense when you think about what are they having to do to these women to make that feasible? We know how a woman's
Because
time
a woman
works
thinks she could
monthly.
do everything like a man does. So now what they do now, they said we'll let the men out because they feel like they want to do everything like men. We'll just open the doorways more for them to come and do manly things in the military.
Well, I mean, even from a biological standpoint, women are on a hormonal time clock every month. So how many drugs are they pumping? Because I know that they have them eat certain foods to keep them from having to use the bathroom too much.
You ever watched G.I. Jane?
To make it feasible? I'm sorry?
There was a movie that came out in the early 90s called G.I. Jane, played by what's Demi Moore? Anybody remember that movie? G.I. Jane? All right. Nylah, you heard about this movie, right? G.I. Jane, right?
I remember seeing G.I. Jane. It was kind of disturbing.
That came out in early 90s.
But the only thing about G.I. Jane, which I think that might be a poor example, because a lot of and when people talk, specifically our people, a lot of our people do not talk about feminism in its historical context, and especially when you're using the movie G.I. Jane. If you think about the movie G.I. Jane, okay, she was going to be a Navy SEAL, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Or she's gonna be a Navy SEAL or somewhere in the Marine, something. But the treatment of her in that, when she came there, she was not acting masculine, right? She was just being a woman. And because she was being a woman, she was bullied by the men for her job. So in her being bullied by the men and treated harshly, she had to develop a tougher exterior. So in order to survive, G.I. Jane had to become masculine. The men that she was around made her masculine. So she had to, she didn't come off like that at first. If you remember, she wasn't like that at first. She came in, she was a woman, and she was just wanting to do her job. But the men belittled her, put her down, beat up on her, not necessarily physically, but they bullied her. And so in that bullying, and that's the thing that men don't understand, I think sometimes, when they sit up there and you mess with women and you fuck with them all the time, and you're doing shit to harm them, like you're challenging women as a man all the time, and you're putting them in positions to where they have to fend for themselves, and you make yourself their equal enemy, right? So when she was faced with that adversity for those men, she was not allowed to be feminine anymore. So she had to, quote unquote, man up in order to survive. But a lot of people, when they talk about that movie, they just talk about the part where she manned up, where she actually made herself masculine, but they don't talk about what led her into masculinity, which I think may be somewhat of a microcosm of what's going on in our community. If you have men that are challenging, like a lot of times men come to my channel, like a guy went to my channel and basically got mad because I wouldn't allow him on the panel. So after we went live, after our live ended, he goes live to challenge me. He physically wants to fight and argue with me and confront me. He said, I'm afraid to come. Why would a man want to confront? I don't even know you. So you shouldn't even want to confront me. But because I'm no punk, and while I know that I'm not physically able, stronger than a man, there are some men I can't whoop some man ass, but what I can't do physically, I can't do with the Smith & Wesson 500 or an AR-15. So when I exude that confidence, that man is then going to call me masculine, but not recognizing the fact that he is the one that lowered himself to my level when he makes a video or goes live to talk about me, to confront me as a woman. So a lot of these men are building G.I. Janes and they don't even know it.
Well, the reason I brought it up because I always go back to that movie, and it's been a while since I watched it, and it's good that you gave a good summary because usually when you haven't watched something in let's say over a decade or more, you forget about the little snippets and clues. I only brought it up for the point that this is something that they're grooming to what is to come. Because like I said, if she was already in there feminine and it has to be groomed to masculine, what's said to most of these women now that are already confused already? That now that's already, like you said, groomed to be masculine because of the environment. Now they're already prepared already instantly for warfare cover because they feel they are men. Not all women, but some of them. You know, so I can't really subject all women that's in the armed forces, Navy or military like that. But you know, it's a grooming process. You know, so they are putting about you the psychological influence of the movie in itself to show, say, the possibilities. You know, that a woman that's feminine can be masculine.
I also
well, you know, thought about that. Taz brought up something. You were one that were sitting on the panel talking about me too before.
Mm-hmm.
That's feminine behavior.
And what panel is that?
You went on Amiri's channel and y'all sat up there. Y'all was mad, which we all, you know, squashed that shit or whatever. But like, you literally went on a panel to discuss me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't find that feminine.
But I gotta know which one. You have to tell me the broadcast. I had to go back.
I mean, you know which one.
I don't remember every broadcast I participated on.
Right. Okay. It was the one right after we had did. I mean, what was that one? The last one we had, that really epic one that we had did when all that stuff had jumped off. Remember? Like that stuff right after the.
I need to details.
Oh, after the 8-hour live. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Is this the one when Amiri was returned back to, what is it, on YouTube or is it on Blog Talk?
It's on YouTube.
Well, I had to go back on YouTube to find some of these broadcasts because he kind of did a couple after the thing was squashed, and he confirmed it was squashed, which I now just saw now. So I had to go back and find that one.
It's squashed, but I just always wonder what motivates a man. Like, it don't come for guys. Like if I say something about a man in one of my videos, it is literally in response to him. Like, you can look and see where like people keep sending them to me. I don't know why. Like the guy who's saying that I'm trying to incite a race war and who's actually petitioning me to lead black men. He wants me to come up with a plan of attack for black men, and he's mad because he feels like I'm starting a race war. Then you have one man that wants to confront me in his video, and then you have another man that's saying that I'm wrong about everything. Like, literally, you know, that's like what motivates you guys to have conversations about, like, I've been on YouTube for 4.5 months. I'm not doing anything but making commentary and talking. I try to stay in my own lane. So what motivates a man, as a man that's done this, to go on to a panel and discuss a woman that hasn't did anything to them?
I see. And you know, it's interesting. You mentioned the thing with even the text message that Amiri did before y'all squash it, and I actually asked him about that. Said, because I know it was you talking about it was not the full conversation. And I did have a conversation, and he said that it was more beyond than what it is. And I told him, said, well, you know, it'd be better if you're gonna put the whole conversation. Well, I guess during that time where y'all squash it, he was trying to prove something. But if you're gonna put any information, and really people should not be putting personal information, because I find out what's going on now with people now doing, they're actually not putting people's address and all that. And I said, if it gets to that point, I said, then, you know, that's when people are really sick, you know. But nonetheless, you know, anything that in regards to people have either with another woman or man, in regards that's very private, they should at least keep that at least a little private. I mean, that's my argument with that. It should not be publicized because it's not gonna prove anything to that somebody's wrong or right, you know. I mean, I have my own views with, you know, our people, you know what I'm saying, and I express them, you know what I'm saying, and I try to be somewhat fair as possible, even in regards when they talk about the Pookie and Ray Ray situation. And when I heard George Mason explain in his perspective in regards to their Pookie Ray Rays and everywhere, especially in the white dominant society, I sit back and say, you know, he has a good point, because these are the same people that build this country were, like, you know, the criminals. Because it take criminality to build this country, you know? There's the only problem why a lot of people demonize the people in our race is because they say that you should not be doing this because you're not them. But no, I'm saying we are peaceful people. When we have to revert to certain things, it's because we're doing it by our circumstance at the end of the day. And it's not a good excuse, but because we're not in control of certain things, a lot of us can't really say too much bad about the people that's doing the shit. The only thing I would say is that if we got control of our communities, it will lessen that. Because, you know, Nylah, if the little things that why we we have problems in our communities keeping in structure is some of it is usually struck by finance and other things. If every black person was doing, let's say, enough, then you will not see the all so-called violence they said we inflict on each other on an everyday basis, which I find is not a true thing because I live around black people. And the violence that I see here is very minimal than what they keep promoting, even if you live in Chicago. And I tell you, isn't it funny how they keep talking about one state,
I'm
one
just
state, hold on, one state, and it said, so you tell me out of all states in America, you saying this is the most of Black America is only in Chicago? And people never question that shit. That's my thing. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Ari.
No, I just was trying to follow what was going on earlier so that I understand. Nylah, are you what were you saying about him exactly? Not that Everett said anything negative.
Well, no, I was just wondering because I do find it like very Wendy Williams like gossipy of men to go and make a video about what they think about my commentary or just to why I shouldn't say what I say or why I should, like, I'm not your woman and this is YouTube and there are lots of channels. So I guess they want to control my channel or they're intimidated by something that I said. But like one man said that I'm trying to incite a race war. Another man is saying just all these crazy stuff they make up because they're looking for a box, you know, to put me in. I don't think that they can necessarily find it because like one, like, you know, how the swirlers want to say that I'm a pick-me for black men. And then some of the black men that are like, especially the pussy ones, like the guy, I think he's in your chat room, Real Brother Radio. That's the guy. He was sending me all these emails. He made several accounts to come and troll my chat room, all because he was upset because I didn't let him on a panel. And the thing is, I'll just about let anybody come up on the panel. But if I recognize if you are trolling in the chat room and you're trying to start trouble in the chat room, why would I bring you on the panel? Now, if it's a reasonable person, then I will. But you go back and you look at his channel and he has no traction. He has no, nobody cares about him, but all of his videos that get very, very minimal views are him using other women's, people's names. And so he made a video where he's saying Nylah Says is wrong. Of course, that's the video with the largest views. And here I am. I've been on YouTube for 4 months, going on 5 months. He's been on here for a long time. This dude is a stalker. He's crazy. And he just literally made a video about me and he doesn't even know what he's talking about. And like, I don't even understand why, these struggle channels, these are men that make themselves look like exactly what Cynthia G says, that like they create her narrative, men like him, because like, I'm not bothering you. I'm in my own lane. So create your lane. Even if you can build views on your struggle channel specifically from using my name, that still makes you a woman. It makes you very feminine and bitchy. You know what I'm saying? Like they go on these tirades where I think that somebody made a video about you too. I mean, they're just mad because they don't want you to have an opinion, or I don't know if they understand that your channel is your channel. And that if they just focus on their 10 subscribers and give them good content, then maybe they'll get 10 more. You know what I'm saying? Cause I feel like they feel like they're gonna have some magic moment. Like if I get into a fight with Nylah, I'll get subscribers fast like she did or something. I don't know what it is, but it's weird.
I have a question. Is this man black? That's doing this?
He is black.
Okay, so one question. What is his content in YouTube? What he's trying to promote?
His content is talking about women and what they say on YouTube, or talking about other people's. That's his, he doesn't really have content. And it's unfortunate because I think that maybe if people would focus on what their voice is and be authentically whoever they are, if you just be as authentic to who you are, people are drawn in and attracted. I didn't have a gimmick when I came onto you. I didn't have a gimmick. I didn't do anything special. I did talk about current trending topics like everybody else did, but I didn't, there's nothing special. But what people do see is authentic representation of who I am, and I don't apologize for it. You know? Like, see this, he's up there now saying, let me read his comment real quick. I'm sure it'll make him.
Well, let me say this.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Yes, we pay a price if we tell the truth. Anyone can appease racist and self-hating black cynics who hate their race and culture and worship whites. You don't get a I don't profit, and nobody hates black men. You know, and that's the thing. They come up with this rhetoric that is completely opposite to what my commentary is, because he's looking for attention and traction. You will not be able to build a following off of Nylah Says' name, Real Brother Radio. The reason why you have no traction and why you sit in a live chat room after a year of making content and only talk to 5 people is because you're not authentic and you're not a content creator. Find a lane, find some authenticity about yourself, and the people will come. There is no gimmick. You're not going to grow yourself from hating on me. You're not. You come off looking like a bitch. You know, and like sending me pictures of you and your daughter and countless emails is not going to validate your manhood. You're going to have to find a man to challenge.
Wait, he sent you pictures of him and his daughter?
Yes. I had to block his email address.
Oh, okay. So he's been showing up on my channel. This is probably the 2nd or 3rd chat I've seen him, and he kind of talks off topic, but is he stalking you?
This dude is retarded. Someone told me that he's been in several other chat rooms. They're not even talking about me, and he goes and brings up he's obsessed. The nigga is crazy. He's fucking retarded.
Okay, it looks like one of my mods hit him. Okay, I didn't know that he was your personal stalker. That's pretty insane.
Well, you know,
I thought he was a weirdo.
You know, my thing with a lot of these black males that go to as far as to stalking women on social media or YouTube, it tells you, okay. Oh, you said something? Oh, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if it gets to that extent, I mean, it shows that it's more than a agenda. It's like, it's a modem, a serious modem. And this is my thing with YouTube. This space, we do not control. And I know most black people are aware of this or not, that so we only participate in this little space. But anytime when we really deal with real issues that offends the so-called status quo, you know what happens. Your page will get shut down. Your page will get flagged, and sometimes you might have to create a new page. So I'm not sure what type of space most black people are trying to fight here on YouTube. That knows that if something we don't control, and we up and fight other people that's putting out authentic content, or like you said, their voice, and fight them on that, on the information, it tells you that most of these men are not serious on the information. They're only there just to get attention, do it for clickbait, likes, and views. And this is how I concluded when I watch these type of behaviors, you know? Because think about it. We're not getting no good shit right now from the regular media. All we hear is bullshit that is the same rhetoric. And when we hear somebody that's bringing a different outlook that people should really examine, look at, these are things we should really keep and pay attention, instead of saying fighting somebody about what is already presented. Because think about what you're saying now, like the information with the sleeper cells and everything. This is not nothing new. This has been around for decades. You know what I'm saying? It's only brought to our attention because black people are bringing it again to synthesize in our own voice to what is always here, you know? And a lot of black people don't want to hear that, because if it don't come from a white person's mouth on the same thing, it's not valid. And I have a problem with that, you know? You should be waiting for your enemy to tell you what really is going on. Then from here, from our own experience that we already know is from what we read. Come here, all the information we get by default is written by white people, and we're not going to disagree with that. But we got to sit and take the information.
Give me a second. Okay. Blue Ion, bitch ass nigga. First of all, you must be obsessed if you just had to make that up, because I don't need YouTube doesn't pay my bills, honey. I have a non-monetized channel, and I eat very well every day. I live very well. Okay, I'm well taken care of. Like, go on somewhere.
Who are you talking to?
Blue Ion Killer talking about I'm making up beef. Like I made up these videos by myself.
I think that Well, the one video I've seen about Nylah, that guy just seemed very obsessed with her and very confused. But I think that it is understandable that people recognize that making negative content about somebody that's more popular than them can get them views. But I think that when it is a man doing that to a woman, especially if this is repeated behavior, that's very base. So I don't think we should point the finger at the person who's being attacked and be like, that's her fault. She's creating a climate for that. Because I really haven't heard Nylah, and I've been on many of her panels on her channel, just outright attacking people and starting beefs with people. So I think that is, I don't know, I think maybe you're just saying stuff to say stuff. But I do want to circle back around to what Nylah was saying about masculinity and femininity, because
Hold on, I'm so sorry. I have to address this one last time, and I will interrupt again. My children are adults. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I was with my man. We went shopping and we went to dinner. And I did an 8-hour shift on YouTube. And I can do that without getting paid for it because I'm well kept and well taken care of. Are you jealous? Do you need a husband? Is that what you need a husband? So that you can do, I can do 24-hour shifts on YouTube if I want to.
Yeah.
You see that, like, you're almost like a woman to sit up here and talk about, I'm not your woman. I'm sorry, Irene. Let me cool out.
Yeah, you're right, Irene. We should get back to the topic. But like I said before, to most people, and it's funny that, like you said, Nylah, I mean, a lot of people, hold on, make sure I don't got no echo. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people, I tell people many times, if whatever they're doing, they should not quit their day job for this, because at the end of the day, this is not a space we control, and people feel that they're going to get liberated, by doing this, like, say, using your name or anybody else's name just to get views, just to get a little crappy check. Then I said, then you really have no livelihood, and that you need to step your shit up, you know what I'm saying? Because if this is how you're going to create a platform using other people's content, you know what I'm saying? Or all that stuff, it's just stupid. I mean, I tell people gotta grow up nowadays, because, and mind you, there's so many people that's make content on YouTube. I can't keep up with everybody, but the ones that I do watch and keep up, at least they put a focus that I make the time effort to watch their videos. I can't watch everybody because most like everybody that does content are not really saying nothing as much as I want to admit, but that's how I see it. They're not really saying nothing. So if they feel they want to be that man and say, well, I just don't like this YouTuber because I'm going to use it because I need these views. I'm saying, fuck with it. I say, come on, grow up, man. But we're going to move on to the topic. Like you said, all right, continue. Go.
Well, I was just going to circle back around to what Nylah was saying about masculinity. And I was just going to say, also, I feel like there are some traits that a woman can have that don't necessarily make her masculine. They are just things that normally a man would do. So, for example, if a woman does not have a healthy masculine male presence, she might have to step up in an area where she would already have in her, but not have to be so forceful with. So, like protection of herself. So you might get women then who are more aggressive because they have to be more aggressive because they don't have healthy male energy there to protect them. So they're not necessarily being masculine. They're still feminine. I know women like this that dress very feminine, that are very feminine, but they talk gruff. Do you know what I mean? But they will be very aggressive if they have to be, simply because that's the position they're put in, or to be very much in a leadership position. Because I know a lot of people say Black women cannot be led. But, again, if you don't have healthy masculine energy there, then you have to take on the leadership role. And I think what people don't appreciate when they engage women in the community is that a woman is just not going to drop her leadership role and drop her, protectiveness of herself and her family because a man comes into the picture. She has to feel safe to know that she can let that go and that there is a strong man there to take it over. So again, I feel like our perceptions of, and this goes to something somebody was asking in the chat about the kind of war between men and women. I think that a lot of it comes down to just a complete lack of understanding or being realistic about what the expectations should be in a dysfunctional environment. So you can't approach somebody and ask them to function normally off bat and then judge them if they don't when the environment is dysfunctional. And also to what Nylah was saying about men aggressively coming toward women, if women are also in a climate, so they already have to heighten up their protection, right? They already have to heighten up their leadership, right? Because they don't have that masculine energy there. Then there's a climate where there are effeminate men who are then attacking them, right? So then, they don't know whether they should be combative or submissive when they encounter a male. They have to vet that. And so a healthy male will approach that and go, oh, well, this woman is masculine and won't be led and isn't feminine. Well, no, give a person time and recognize that just because you come correctly doesn't mean that she's going to shed all of her protections immediately. So I think a lot of this is misunderstanding too between the men and the women in our community, and a quick rush to judgment instead of accepting that people have to acclimate to the situation based on how they've been living up until you approach them, up until you try to lead them, up until you engage them.
Yeah. Were you done? Because I'm so sorry, I cut you off so many times.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
I think that again, that is a good point. Like a lot of these women, because you encounter so many that are feminine, when they do see, but the thing is, I do believe that even though they encounter a lot of a feminine man, when you're in the presence of a masculine man, you know it instinctively, because it almost completely it overshadows you. I don't know what the word for it is, but when you're in the presence of a masculine man. And most women, if they are healthy in mind, they're going to cooperate with that masculinity, because that's just a natural thing for women. And that's why, like, a lot of men, they'll say, well, you must do this to your man, and because like I say, and I know it sounds messed up when I say this, if there is an ounce of bitch in a man, I'll bring it out. And I'm not trying to, but they're like, if it's there, I'm going to bring it out. And they get into these confrontations with me. And the thing is, you're not going to be a bigger bitch than me. JJ, listen, again, why are you trying to effeminate these men? I've been on Obsidian's show, and I don't think that men should be trying to challenge me. Why are you trying to get men to challenge me? Do you know any men that they need to be challenging, or any women that I need to be challenging? Why do you want me to spar with men? Because if and when I do intellectually outshine them, then you're going to have a problem with that. Then you're going to call me masculine because of that. Stop trying to compare women to men and pit men up against women. Who raised you guys? Like, I just don't know. I'm starting to think that the majority of you guys did not have fathers, or either your fathers were absent, didn't sign your birth certificates, did not exude leadership. I don't understand why a man would do that. Nylah is born hungry for subs. I'm like hungry for subs, really? And jealous of what? Oh, never mind. I don't even know why I ignored that. Why I even read that.
Will 33 said, what is the average age gap of relationships in our community? Do you think it plays a part in the insecurity of our relationships? I don't know technically the stats on that.
I would say no.
I don't know technically the stats on that, but I will say that the way that dating is promoted across the board in modern culture, I would say that once a person comes of dating age, it's very common that I would say, if they're active and attractive, not to sound like Dr. Seuss, that they are dating a lot. But I honestly don't know. I'm a bad person to ask because I wasn't on the market for most of my adult life. So take it away, those of you who may have more experience than me.
All right. Do I have a background noise? That sounds good. Okay, I'm good. Like I said, and probably a lot of these males have grown up with no father in their life, and that might be one factor what in their behavior most likely. And it's sad when we're talking about building families, and like you said, Irene, this is something the society does not promote. And I tell people many times they should not be waiting on society what they should promote, because any time a society promotes a certain direction, our people should go the other way. Because anything they promote is always to your detriment by default. So if they're promoting, less small families to Black people and doing some other to their own people, that tells you say, you should look the other way. And if they're saying that if your children could come to school and say you don't have to be a male, you could choose what orientation you could be, and say, not in my house. No, you're born as this, you can conduct yourself like this. But we don't question a lot of things that's happened to us nowadays. As a collective, as people, we just go along, get along, and just don't want to offend the status quo. And in this doing this, our children are destroyed for this. Hell, some children don't even know about the system really entirely until they're adults, most likely, or even when they're in teenagers, and they look back at the parents and they look at it and demonize, say that we failed them. And that's a harsh reality to a lot of our children that really starts to see the bigger picture, and the only thing that their adult parents are keep pushing back in time. But what else in regards to politics? But like the like you said earlier, Irene, about does age matter? To me, I would say it does in a way, but it depends on the person still. I mean, I find it now that most women like to deal with older men anyway. But I always question out the movements of that alone, because there's a lot of pedophilia going around in our communities, and I don't like that. To say, why are you as a man that's, let's say, 25 more years older seeking somebody that's in their teenagers? I question that. I very much question that. Like there's no boundary in regards to looking for mates on a certain age, and I have a problem with that.
Well, I think that in the Black community, women often mature early, and it's acceptable in our community to sexually abuse little girls because they have bodies that resemble women's bodies. So their age doesn't matter. And I think that's just something that's not talked about a lot in our community. We kind of have normalized child abuse in that way. And I think that's something that we have to check, because I know as a young woman, a lot of adult men approached me, and I've heard that be common to other women that I talk to throughout my life. And we know that statistically, our community does have a prevalence of this going on. But again, these are all things that we can check if we acknowledge them and we stop making deviant behavior politically correct or normalized. Not politically correct, but normalized. And I think, that's essentially what we've done across the board. And it's just becoming more and more acceptable to do things that are not actually helpful or healthy or natural, but they're being viewed as natural, which is very unfortunate. I don't want to make this super long because my man comes back in town today, because y'all know he left for a day to do some sports stuff with his son, because they don't Thanksgiving. But if you guys want to say something just to close out, and then I thank you both for coming on here. I had my first organized panel, and I think it went really well, even though I didn't quite know what I was doing. So hopefully.
Yeah, I saw your invite, but I was on another. I had planned to be on with Sin, so I didn't get a chance to come.
Yeah, I saw you guys were on. So yeah, that went well. I think I did an okay job, but but it was a little bit hard. I was a little flustered. But on the topic, do you guys have anything you want to say before we go?
Is this stream more than 2 hours right now, Irene? Because I'm not sure what time I got on the stream. I think it's over 2 hours now. Am I right?
No, it's like an hour and a half. It hasn't been that
Okay,
long.
well, I guess that's perfect enough. I think people could assimilate this information. So I have no arguments with this stream today. I'm gonna sit back for a bit before I respond.
Nylah,
Yes.
do you have any?
No, I just thanks for letting me come on, and I think it's a good topic that should actually, I think we should explore this topic even further in, you know, in compartments, because it is like what we're seeing in this chat box is normalized dysfunction.
Oh,
seeing men, you know, seeing men say that you need to go challenge this man so he can give you that work. That's dysfunctional. And then we'll turn around and say that I'm a feminist after trying to put me one-on-one with a man to challenge me. Just great. No, you know what? I would go live NBA, but Papa Bear's coming home soon, and I haven't did shit. So I got stuff to do, but I probably will go live a little bit later on this evening.
Yeah. So all I have to say, you guys, is that.
Oh, I do want to say one thing, Irene, because we did discuss this last night, and maybe I should just go over it now briefly, because you liked it and you did research. To all those men that don't understand about homosexual behaviors, even when you talk about eating the booties, all this nonsense, that knows that one of the things why most of our women get what they call HIV and lead to AIDS is because of sexual behaviors in regards. And now because it's becoming more and more normalized, I know one brother told me a story that some sisters have no problem with, you know, that anal crap with men now. So now women got to be very cautious now, more than ever now, because just the practice alone is what caused our illness with all this disease. And also, not only that, but also engage in interracial coupling with non-black people also cause disease. And a lot of black men don't want to hear that. Same for a lot of black. So when you mess with somebody that's not part of your race, you're prone to all those diseases because they have a weaker immune system and genetics. You know? And I think Stevie G did a broadcast on it, say what are the benefits of being white. But you don't see nothing, but you see a lot of dis-ease. So that tells you right there you should not be having casual sex with them. That should be right there, common sense right there.
Oh, something we did talk about last night was just with regard to anal sex, and this is something you guys should really keep in mind, is that you can be more easily immunocompromised when you engage in that behavior. So you want to avoid that if you can. And just also see
things. Avoid it altogether. Not you can, you must avoid, because
that's true. That's true.
Because remember, I'm gonna tell you this most call that's gonna go back to plebe. When a man goes behind somebody else's rectum, right, a male, female, and he expels a seed, that seed is only designed to break through the zygote of a woman. So if it's not going and penetrating the zygote, what's it doing when it's swirling behind the rectum of somebody? It's sitting there open and exposing and damaging the colon and the intestinal, which goes into the liver, the kidney also, and it compromises your whole intestinal tract. That's why you see a lot of men over time with that sexual practice. And another black man wrote a book on this called Definition of Broke Ass. He explained in literature about this. And there are pictures and there are research now on the internet that show people that have colons come out the backside because of that practice alone. So I'm gonna leave people to research on that alone, and that'll be all.
Yeah. So I would just say, just in closing, you guys, think about an act before you engage in it. There's a lot of behaviors, and maybe I'm just weird, you know, that seem funny to me. So I would just say that, you know, I talked about this yesterday when we were discussing pornography and pedophilia. I was saying, you know, as women, we should be responsible to groom ourselves well in that area, but not to make ourselves look prepubescent. Because again, people make connections mentally and they don't realize those connections have been made until the trigger is put there. So it's best to never create that connection. Or, you know, if somebody touches your butthole during sex, or offers to put their mouth there, like perhaps, well, I would hope that you would be having sex with your husband, or your wife, but perhaps that's not a person you want to deal with, or you need to have a conversation about what's healthy and normal, and, you know, what a person is dealing with, that they feel, you know, dealing with fecal matter during a sexual act.
So disgusting.
A sensible thing. Yeah, it's disgusting. And I think we have to start having a healthy attitude toward what is and isn't disgusting. When we talked on the Politically Correct Live about being sensitive to people and their sexual orientation, we also have to recognize that enabling people to chop off their breasts and take drugs to unnaturally enlarge their clitorises, or encouraging men to invert their penises and get silicone breasts, that is not a loving thing to do. That's not something that's going to promote a healthy family in our community. That's not going to promote healthy people. And so we have to draw a line between being accepting of people and allowing people the space to be who they are, and behaviors that are actually truly vile in nature. And so I guess that was kind of the point of this live, was the things that are very abnormal that we are normalizing and making acceptable. We are desensitized to them. And just because something is normal or common doesn't make it right. And Everett said something very important before, which is that we have to relearn normal, or I would say we have to relearn healthy. Were you saying something?
No, it's echo. I did not say that.
Okay. So yeah, so I guess that's about it, you guys. I just wanted to come on and do a quick live because, like Nylah, I did make the bed and do some stuff, but I should probably do some more stuff before my man gets here.
Yeah, that's all I did was make the bed. I haven't done anything else, but hopefully I won't get beat up. No, I'm just playing. Do that, but if you're home all day, you need to do something.
You want it rough, man. Now I'm say, oh, come on, don't worry, no, hold on. You know what I'm saying? I tell you, say, when it's a healthy relationship, when that man exerts that masculinity, I'm saying, that woman hate. I was like, oh, that's that toxic man saying, wait a minute, that's that good masculinity. That's what you need, girl. I don't know what the fuck you talking about. You want some scrub? You want some little freak? You want actual man? You know what I'm saying? Because when shit hits down, that little soft dude ain't gonna protect you. Hell, you could tell right now from the chat room they're soft right now. And some of them bust up right now, they'll sit there running their pants. They'll piss in themselves. They'll shit themselves. Hell, they'll go back to the mother's womb. So,
and I do want to just touch back on to what Sir Black, the first thing that inspired this live. When we consider things like the morning after pill, which to me is essentially a passive abortion because you can get pregnant, right? You just cannot have the egg will not be able to attach to the uterine wall. So there is a fertilized egg there that could be a potential person. So when we talk about the morning after pill, when we talk about PrEP, which allows people who, in most cases, not all cases, because I do know at least one person, and this is uncommon, but I had a person very close to me who passed away from AIDS, who did get it from a blood transfusion, but that's not common anymore. Unless a person's born with AIDS, it's normally due to some sort of sexual activity. So when we think about things like PrEP, when we think about things like condoms, which basically allow us to engage in a procreative act with the hope of no consequences, when we look at things like the morning after pill, these are all things to encourage people to engage in behaviors that are damaging to their body and their psyche. And so, yeah, I just encourage you guys to consider those things, and let's try to go ahead. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was the echo. Okay. Yeah, let's try to just model the healthiest behavior as far as sexual responsibility that we can for the next generation, and not expose our kids to a media that is teaching a heavy level of dysfunction and normalization of debauchery and based behavior in in men and female relations. So that is pretty much it for my live, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for showing up. This is actually my most successful live. I don't think I've ever topped 100 people, so that's probably because you're here, Nylah, because I'm sure your face popped up.
I mean, that might be one reason, but you know, nonetheless, when the information is good, you know, depending either they watch or not, they're gonna find it useful, because at the end of the day, not everybody can be pleased, but the information will please somebody, you know, and that's the most important thing, because you're not here supposed to be loved and respected by others. You know what I'm saying, because you didn't come to this earth to be, you know, cater to people's feelings. You come here just to be you and disseminate truth. That's all.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
All right.